Hello and welcome to the Fireside Writing Advice stream. I am your host, Raymond McNeil, and joining me as always is the immortal Mollie Rhymemaster. Mollie, how are you doing today?
Ruby makes me want to kill myself.
Well, we're demonetized. Thank you so much for that. It's been a lovely stream, everyone.
In Minecraft.
I think alpha beta. Okay, 1 minute. It's gonna look weird on the screen. Hopefully this works. Okay, if I click that there and then do this and then go to
Guys,
the
it's
link.
okay. I meant it in Minecraft.
There we go. All right, we got the submission. Wonderful. All right, go away, streamer mode. I don't need that. All right, so yes, how is everyone doing today? It's been it's been a little while because we do this now every other weekend. You'll notice that you'll notice now that the name has been slightly tweaked to Writing Advice Stream because there have been obvious concerns over whether or not what this stream actually was, and it is our stream to give you writing advice. Now, for those of you who don't know who we are, don't know our credentials in that matter, we're actually rather lacking in certain regards. Though I do have a degree. I have a bachelor's degree in English, and I am a published author, though it is self-published. I'll put that up front. It's not any lesser than any other published author, and I have been actually writing for about ever since I was 14. So actually, probably since I was 13. So about 14 years now, 15 years almost coming up. So I've been writing for quite some time, and I have quite a few opinions on how writing is handled. I've also been a reviewer and consistent media critic on this channel for quite some time, although I'm pretty sure most of the people here probably know that at some point. Mollie, do you want to give any kind of credentials, or are you just going to be the mysterious...
I know how cars work. Just kidding. I only know how they work traffic-wise. I don't know how cars actually work.
Yes. Okay, so 1 minute. Did Floof, are you sending? What did you send me, Floof? Oh no, it's just cute stuff. Okay, I don't need that. I mean, I need that, but I don't need it now. So yes, any interesting anecdotes before we get into today's topic?
Interesting anecdotes. No.
Mundane
I,
anecdotes.
I should point out, though, my credentials of a sort are in narrative songwriting, and I've been doing that since I was about 15, and I'm 21 now, so it's been almost 6 years. And I'm, I guess, good at describing trends I see, because traffic engineering, so that helps.
Yes, she is very good at pointing out weird little like quirks that people have in their writings, where they're very they're very prone to do this. They do this a lot. Can you name like an example of some kind of pattern you've picked up on?
The big one is SVO writing.
Okay,
Just giving it a name is really useful.
yeah, SVO is a big one. But so we're basically here to review other people's work to see what you guys can whip up in the what chat can whip up basically when it comes down to content. I'm sorry I'm being a little quieter. I have someone sleeping in the next room over. I'm trying to be a little more tame for them. God, my brain is all over the place today. The entire goal here is basically just to review people's writing, give them feedback on what they can do, and to hear people's ideas. Last week or the week before, because we actually do our Ace Attorney streams every other weekend, our challenge to you guys was to give us a story about secrets or mystery in general, but secrets was the big like singular word that we threw out there at the very end because we don't actually plan this show ahead of time. We just kind of jump into it.
No, we don't.
We just kind of jump into it. The answer SVO is subject, verb, object. Is that right?
Yeah, it's the most basic I mention it a lot. It's the most basic sentence structure. And a lot of new writers, or just bad writers, they'll basically just write like, he did this, he shot her, she jumped up. Like it's very basic and very droning. And it's how the brain naturally thinks, which is why people tend to default to it.
Yeah.
It's how English just works.
yeah, it's the simplest form of English writing. So there's nothing I would say inherently bad about it. But when you're trying to write if you're trying to work outside of like a technical or outside of a professional basis, where like if you're not a police officer writing down the exact events that happened, you shouldn't be using flowery language. But if you're writing a novel and you're trying to keep the interest of someone who's reading, not flowery necessarily, but like interesting language keeps you locked in. So instead of saying
Yeah.
he jumped up, you could say uh, wet tile,
Leaping, he did this.
or like wet tile slipped underneath his foot as he kicked off against it, like trying to describe like multiple facets of the environment and the actions and the character as you do a singular sentence. It's all about trying to basically express the most amount of information in the least amount of time possible.
Yeah, it's also the opposite of that is overwritten, which is a bit different from purple prose. Overwritten is when you are just using too many words to describe an action.
Mm.
So
Good
let's
example.
say, like,
Watch any movie Bob. Sorry, film Roberto, but no. Watch any movie Bob video, and you will understand what overwriting is, because that man overwrites his scripts completely.
yeah. The other example, read any like Fujo fanfic, just any of them.
Oh Christ!
It's like what I call Powercore writing, which is basically just like big fights, big powers, and that's it. You is like the SVO problem, and then you have Fujo fics, which are the overridden problem, and that's that is the spectrum of how overridden something is.
Yeah, and I mean, now don't get us wrong. Both actually have their own entertainment value in terms of like bad stuff. Like for example, we just read every single Friday night we do bad fan fiction night. Not me and Molly, but me and other members of the Tundra like Nakago, um, which you can join for $1 or more to my Patreon.
Yeah, Patreon plot.
Patreon plug already. But no, in the Tundra, we actually have this whole night where we read bad fan fiction together, and we kind of just try and find the hilarity in it because it's very entertaining. And back to back, I think we've read My Inner Life and in My Inner Life and Blood Roses, which are the abused and neglected male reader self-insert.
Abused and neglected male reader.
And if you read those back to back, Abused and Neglected Male Reader, The Blood Rose, is written in very SVO. It's incredible. I mean, to the point where, like, when it comes down to dialogue, it's written in script format. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. But it's hilarious in how bad it is, because it gets overly insane. Or, like, you have characters who are literally dragons in the Ruby world. It's like, why? On the flip side, you have My Inner Life, which is all about, this girl literally cuckolding all the females of Hyrule to marry Link. And it's written in some of the most overwrought prose, and there's like a lot of repetition that goes in there. You find that a lot in overwritten prose, where like they have to keep reusing same words because they want to express the same idea, but they don't know how to use a freaking thesaurus. There was literally a part during that where I broke down and I started repeating like 5 different words that had just been repeated constantly. So like you get nonsense sentence in my brain. It was great. Oh yes, also everyone say hi to Tiny Weiss. She and Mini Marn are the unofficial mascots of the Fireside Writing Advice streams.
Mini Marn is chilling in somewhere in West Massachusetts.
Oh yes, and they use time skips to avoid writing whole chunks of time. Yes. Oh my god, yes. When you're writing SVO.
How about so and so's POV writing?
It's impressive how many that Blood Roses hits, honestly, because they also do that. And remember, every single time you read POV, don't read it as POV. Read it as POV. It makes it funnier.
Ruby's POV. All right, let's get into the
right. So, brief correction about this very first story that we're about to read. Due to how Twitter handles messages from new people, I didn't receive this one, and or at least I did technically receive this one the last time we did a readout, but I completely missed it because it was buried in my messages. It's hard to explain, but basically I hate Twitter. So this is technically from last week, where the prompt was death. So we're going to be kind of basically backtracking a little bit, but don't worry, the rest of these are completely in line. So we'll get to them. Just please bear with me. I feel really bad about this guy getting completely unnoticed. This is what was his name? Poncho, I think.
Poncho?
I think it was, name was Poncho. So Poncho, sorry man, we'll rectify that now. The door creaks open as I stand motionless in its frame. Only the steady dripping sounds from the water falling off my drenched figure punctuate the silence. Simple question. Who are you?
Hold on, I wanna hone in on that. That's a really good way to start, because we did a whole stream on this. We did a stream on describing things using something besides sight, and the fact that he is starting with sound, I just like when that happens.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It paints more of a picture.
Simple question. Who are you? The old words rung in my ears once again, asking a question I had long forgotten the answer to. I eased the door shut, snuffing out the pale glow from the hallway behind me, and tread further into the awaiting darkness. I see a room and a man with no name. I see a room where each day is the same. Is this a songfic, I guess? The cold gray room rose up to greet me once again, the old friend I've often neglected. Its icy breath permeates my skin. I can almost feel the shards of frost forming. I notice my reflection in the window pane, pelted by the relentless torrent outside. The familiar ghost was whispering a mantra more real than I ever could have been. At least I have the courtesy and wherewithal to know that upon my grave there will be no tears for me to sow. I watch as the ghost well, you want to comment?
This is actually interesting. His prose is very sound, but this is like the slightly leading into SVO, because everything he does is I watch, he sent, his, his, that, like, it's very minor. It's a very minor case of it, but it's interesting where you see it crop up.
Yeah. I watch as the ghost rearranged the room. He sent the mattress to the corner, pushed the lone table away, and dragged the decrepit chair to his side. His eyes seemed to dampen, and my vision becomes blurred. I don't know if that's like how that tense lines up. It should be became, unless like you're going for something specific there. My words, my eyes, my heart are empty, and I watch them move on as I thought. These words I keep are my only friends, yet when I need them the most, they fail me. I don't know if that one was supposed to rhyme at all, because like, the other ones rhymed, but this one didn't. A staircase is somewhere, built just for me. I'm sorry, I hate you, I promise I love you. A spider's thread beckoned. Little yellow polka dots greet me once again. To drift me to sleep, I close my eyes, my tired eyes, and I finally dare to dream.
This is really interesting prose-wise to me, because this is a great example of someone who's like knows what they're doing and just kind of has these little things that needs to be smoothed through. Because like I said, the very minor SVO, and also a lot of the sentences are very long. Like when you're trying to write something really gripping, you want to mix those sentences up, mix short punchy sentences with long ones, because as my friend Star had talked about in the server the other day, you can control how fast your reader reads and how they retain the information. Like you as a writer have control over that, and it has to do a lot with how long your sentences are. So it's always good to mix it up and kind of balance it depending on what you want. You want to do a slower, more dramatic scene, or not more dramatic, but more relaxed scene, or just slower. Like you want long sentences. If you want like a fight scene, you should be doing short, very quick sentences, because your reading speed increases, and your like brain is telling you that's going fast or that's going slow. Like you're perceiving it like that.
And like adding on to that in like a fight scene sense, you can get like those moments. I don't know if like sometimes in anime you get a character that gets like knocked away and the camera lingers on them. It's like one of those really impressive animation shots where like they get knocked away, they go spiraling around, and then like midair they recover and like kind of twist around and like start arcing back in onto the fight. And like that if you that has a that's a like a beat in the actual fight where like it had been like a lot of fast punching until that point, and then like, bam, 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 and then bam. Whoa. You can do that in writing with how you describe things. You can get that sort of like bam, 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 punchy, 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 punchy. Those punchy sentence, punchy sentence, punchy sentence, and then you can have like a long sentence that stretches that out and makes you feel like this length of time passing in a certain way.
This all being said, his actual sentences individually are very good. It's very descriptive. Like it paints a good image in your head. It's interesting because like piecemeal, this is very good, but altogether it has issues.
Yeah, it's just like a lot of. Well, the thing is, I'm not entirely sure if it's not intentional. That's the thing about this is that this could be SVO intentionally because that's just sort of how the punctuation he wanted it to feel like. He wanted it to feel like da 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 because like especially with a death fic, it kind of becomes like monotonous. It could be like a reflection of like rain if you really get down to like symbolism.
That's true. Yeah, I kind of wish he said time zones. Maybe he's Australian or something. Um, means he can't catch the stream, but I would love to hear him like explain this.
Yeah, Poncho. If you're hearing, if you're watching this playback, we would love to hear your extended thoughts. Either leave them in the comments of the. Actually, probably be easy if you just leave it in the comments of the video. But so me and Molly can both see them.
Yeah, because his actual sentence content is so good. I have a feeling that this is intentional. Like he wants this monotonous droning as somebody approaches death, which is really cool of an idea.
So yeah, thank you for the submission, Poncho. I am so angry that I passed over this. This is very solid.
Yeah. By the way, why did we not read his little "Hi Raymond, hi Molly"? Just wanted to say this here because I'll probably miss the stream. Say hi to the rest of Team Frostbite for me. Hope you have fun with this. It's very sweet of him to leave that.
He actually added that when I. He actually added that when I was when I told him that I'd be using this one for him. That I feel bad. I felt bad, so I was explaining everything to him, and he actually wrote this out when he finally gave me the permission to view this, because he also didn't understand how Google worked, because Google can be confusing with sharing stuff. So I actually read that out as he was typing it. So I guess it just kind of crossed my mind not to read it out. But yes, thank you, Poncho. Great submission. Hopefully you do something in the future. I feel like because we didn't read you last week, it kind of discouraged you from writing this week. And I feel bad about that. Really apologize. I do hope to see more of your work in the future, man. This is interesting stuff. I want to see where you go with it. Now, on to the actual week's prompt. Now, cleaning up my mistakes. Very first.
Anime AK is the next one.
Is anime? Well, yeah.
By the way,
I'm gonna.
If you guys are.
Oh, sorry,
if you guys are wondering why I keep looking over this way, it's because girlfriend is in the room. She's not on stream, but she is in room.
Hello.
So if you heard her just then, she said hi.
Sorry. Yes, hello.
I keep looking over because she's being cute.
Oh. But yes.
Also, she's probably very bored. So.
Anime AK, we'll get back to you. If you're in chat, can you please answer for us whether or not which one of these two we're supposed to read? Because I believe you sent two this week, and I don't know why. Instead, we're going to be reading Mupa's next. Is that okay with you?
Mupa.
And if you want, you can read Mupa's, because I know you enjoy Mupa.
I do enjoy Mupa's work. But you're a queen. Peter Flynn says, hello, Molly GF.
Hello, Peter Flynn.
Peter, you got a shout out from girlfriend in chat. So here we have, it looks like we have these same characters again that Mupa likes to work with.
I remember her mentioning this when we were talking in the Sketchy Huntsman. She wrote this in future tense. She was experimenting with future tense with this one.
Okay. I have placed an object within the box. If you can tell me what it is, I'll tell you where to find Noel. Kane will sit across from Hassan in the small storage room of the warehouse, a wooden box on a low table between them. He's going to reach for the box, but Hassan shakes his head, saying he could only observe. Kane will tap his fingers on the armrest, studying the android. When he first meets Hassan, his blue eyes were scorching. He constantly maneuvered himself between Kane and Noel, whispered in her ear to leave them behind. No. Her friend and doctor had tugged at her hand while she shrugged at Kane. Kane won't imagine that an android would have much in the way of personal items or things of sentimental value. In fact, he will have never seen Hassan take anything out of his pockets. I didn't say she's my queen. I said she's a queen, chat. Gosh. The box will have already been on the table when Kane entered the room. Hassan wouldn't have something touched or removed it at any point since Kane entered. Kane won't think Hassan would place something in Noel's box. An object like that would only goad Kane further. Hassan will be sitting between Kane and the other door, his expression and posture a steelgate. It's definitely wordy. It's interesting to read. Like, it feels almost a little uncomfortable to read, but I don't know if that was intentional or not. Does that make sense?
No, I get you. I'm trying to parse out like where tenses change and shift and what they're describing and whether or not it works for that. Because it's like there are some things that are in past tense, obviously, but most of it is trying to be in future tense. But I don't know how much of that works.
It's
future
the
tense
box and its hidden item would be little more than a Rubik's Cube. When solved, the colored squares will line up to say, "Fuck off." Random bric-a-brac would only be found in the room and building. Nothing would make Kane disappear as quickly as he appeared. Hassan will only be too kind to observe the passing time, and if Kane needs some juice to fuel his brain. Whatever's in the box will be a mirror, a bullet with Kane's name written on it. His real test will be to clench it between his teeth. For an android, etching things like named a birth date, blood type, all would be child's play. All the things that Kane had thrown away and left behind when he ran from home. All the stains he picked up on the road, police-stamped texts thirsting for blood. Nothing that would drain his insides and fill his veins with nitrogen, like seeing a face very much like his, but older, horribly familiar, and who claimed genetic ties. Altogether, the answer will be pretty obvious.
Interesting.
I'm a little bit lost. Again, maybe it's because I was reading. I know I'm the one who read it, but trying to parse out the future tense means like I was more focused on that than I was on the story.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting experiment. I think it's an interesting experiment. I don't know if it quite hits where it needs to function properly. I feel like future tense is one of those things that like you need to have a very specific context for. It's not one that you want to just kind of throw out there. Now, keep in mind, Mupa is one of our favorite repeat customers here. She has consistently done really good work. So if we're kind of unimpressed with this one, it's more that I think the experiment just didn't go how any of us had hoped. In all things, in some ways, writing is a science. You try some things, you experiment, and sometimes it just doesn't work out the way you hoped.
I think that future tense is interesting, just for a mystery, because that's kind of how mysteries work.
It reminds me of the Sherlock Holmes movie. You ever watch the Sherlock Holmes movie, the one with Robert Downey Jr.?
No.
In it, there are moments where you see him plot out his course of action. So, like, I mean, they make it an action movie, so he's obviously like a master boxer in like Krav Maga or whatever. I don't know what they give him, even though Krav Maga is a modern fighting style. So, like, you'll see, like, an entire segment where, like, he plans out how he's going to disable this guard. And he'll be like, first, a punch to the face. Then, a punch to the kidneys. Then this, then that, then this. And then he'll follow through with it. It kind of reminds me of that, where, like, it's all about, like, this will happen, this will happen, this will happen. And it kind of gives me, like, the feeling of, like, planning this is like planning a bank heist, effectively. It's like, this is how this is going to go, this is how this is going to go, this will happen, this will happen, this will happen. and it all happened at this time type deal. It feels like more of a planning type prose than it does feel like a situationally happening type prose. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, we have. Is this the one that Elvin sent in?
Oh man, let's
Yeah,
see.
this is.
Let's see. Did Anime AK respond in chat at all? I don't think so. Well, Anime, we're just going to go with your more recent one, if that's all right. I think that's probably the smartest move. So go for a day at the range. Because, yeah, we got to get back to him, I think. Oh, wow, that took almost no time. Moopa, if anything, Moopa, at least your writing moves real quick. It moves nice and snappy. It's nice. But yeah, Day at the Range by Anime AK116.
It is.
Or as I like to pronounce it, Anime AK. Anime AK116. Sorry, just funny. Signal Academy.
Animac.
Animac. The Animax. No. Signal Academy range, patch, Veil, October 30th, 10 BTF, before the fall. Ruby was mesmerized by the sight of the rack of guns, blades, and mecha shift weapons in display. Should be on display. Her eyes sparkled with excitement and anticipation. Though the minute she was about to run in and to pester the poor rangemaster about the tools of destruction. A gloved hand was placed on her shoulder. I think you want a comma and a lowercase a here. Those are.
Yeah, that was like a thing that he started to do, where like he would break his sentences up.
Yeah. Where
there should be a comma, he'd put a period.
Yeah, like this, like right here, like immediately place up on her shoulder, calming her down to keep her inner child at bay. Like, I don't know if you're allergic. Like it feels kind of like you're allergic to having paragraphs that are only like 2 sentences long. Like
allergic to commas.
I don't understand what. Did I miss someone's submission? I left after the first one. You missed Moopa's submission. Alpha Omega Beta Sim. We're on Anime AKs right now, and I don't know why you do that, Anime AK. I don't know. I'm not gonna correct them going forward. I'm gonna point them out, obviously, but I'm not gonna correct them like I did here. But
it's interesting. I don't think like when I write, occasionally I will do something like that to make it sound snappier and to reflect how the narrator is thinking. But I do it for that reason. And I wonder if he's trying to do something similar here, but doesn't like fully understand why it works and how to use it.
Yeah, I wonder. She looked up to the owner of the hand and gave him a warm smile. Though she didn't receive one in return. Again, I think there should have been a comma there. Not that she could or needed to see it. They both then looked to a man behind the counter with keys.
Hold on. There is where you're supposed to do it. Okay, so combine the first 2 sentences into one, right?
Yes.
And then, period. Not that she could or needed to see it.
Yes, like right here. This is how you do it, because like you could technically, if you really wanted to, you could just do comma lowercase n, but
it's not as snappy.
It's not as snappy. This feels a little more snappy, and it feels much better for like an ADHD child to be thinking. The anime dude needs Grammarly. I will never recommend Grammarly.
Don't use Grammarly.
It's not worth it, man. It doesn't really help. They then looked at a man behind the counter with keys. His pale armor was white as snow, but his visor was blue, like her older brother's, with orange accents painted on the white Kevlar Duraplast composite armor.
Okay, did I need to know that it was white Kevlar Duraplast composite armor? Did I need to know that? Anime AK.
He's not in chat, so he can't really answer that, but
I know, but like rhetorically. Here's the thing about Powercore, which is what a lot of people start in when it comes to writing. when you want to transition from Powercore to like writing to a general audience, you have to consider: do people need to know this? Do people need to know that it was an AK 420 with a special fuck you attachments and a super scope, and it was painted black with cheetah print on it? Like, no, I didn't need to know that. And once you
The
try to parse it
caveat,
out,
the caveat here though is that most of this is from Ruby Rose's perspective, as far as I can tell. And if it's Ruby Rose, what is one element of Ruby Rose's character that we know? She's a gun nut. She's a weapon nut. She loves weapons. So
why would she be explaining like every facet of an armor set though? I guess it kind of lines up.
yeah, I'm saying like there could be a logical explanation, but you're right that this is dangerous ground to tread, especially with a fledgling writer. There is a point where, actually, I'm not really sure there's a point. What am I trying to say here? This is a trick that you use when you're a more experienced writer, where you're trying to get into the voice of a character, and he's done that occasionally. He's actually kind of nailed that once or twice. Remember back to the picnic one that we assigned him, where
He got it there. It's just so easy to fall back into old habits, and like I'm gonna keep using the word power core because I just came up with it, and it is such like a tough thing to break from when you're doing that, because you're writing. Fujo fanfics have this problem too. You start writing from your perspective.
Poncho Weiss disapproves. It's not a poncho. It's a jersey.
I guess it is kind of a poncho.
I feel like there's a better way to write gun nuts pove than using a deluge of adjectives. I mean, like, I could definitely see, like, this could be, like, there would be, like, two people in the room, and she'd be, like, trying to compliment them both mentally on their armor, and, like, you could have, like, making, like, the very fine specifications, and, like, oh, he was wearing this beautiful white Kevlar Duraplast composite armor. Not that Franklin's, black ceramic Duraplast composite armor was any worse, though it did have a few chips, like trying to be like kind of scrambling in the brain. Like you could have fun with that, but like
Yeah, have fun with, make it a little more human. All like don't and what, like, I don't want Ruby going up, or I guess it would fit for Ruby, but I don't want the narrative just start to be like he had a he had a triple double Krabby Deluxe 4x4 light axle grease animal style shimmy with the squeeze, burn it, make it cry, and let it swim.
you memorized all of that, and I am impressed. But no, like, oh wait, this is okay right now. This may get worse. This is us being all right. We're alarmed. Oh, no, this is like the all right. So far, so good, but you're kind of treading a thin line here. So consider this us just expressing concern for the rest of the story. How's that? Fair? Okay. So, how descriptive should you get anyways? It feels hard to gauge that kind of stuff and how crazy Ruby weapons are. Well, I don't know how to really. It really is one of those feel things where you just kind of feel it out. I've gotten to the point where I've described like a single item in miraculous amounts of detail, but that's typically because that item is going to become like, I have a mecha story that I was writing. I spent about 3 solid paragraphs describing that mecha, because that mecha is going to be a major centerfold of the entire story, and it's in a situation where the characters could logically slow down to appraise it. It's like that kind of like naturally flew out of the narrative, but it's something you have to really feel for, or else you're going to suddenly ground the narrative to a halt.
Elvin has a good point. The narrative shouldn't stop to describe something if it's not going to come up again.
Say again?
I think that's like a good rule.
Say again?
He says the narrative shouldn't stop to describe something that's not going to come up again.
Yes, I agree. I think that's a very, very smart way to go about it. Describing a symbol of a character or armor is good when the symbol is important. Yeah. So like,
All right, let's.
yeah. Let's keep going. Hey, boss. Should I just slap him on the wrist for that spilling of hay?
Sometimes it's used as like an accent thing.
Yeah.
But you should absolutely get him for missing the apostrophe in
yeah,
today's.
I was about to hit that. Today's the day to call in that favor you owe me. He nodded and pointed to another man at the gun section of the range. Sure thing, Duran. Just take her to take her to Sev. Comma, the man replied, his accent bleeding through his helmet speaker. Ruby couldn't help but ask excitedly about the gear he wore. By any chance, is there any armor like that for sale? It looks cool and protective, and I want to be a huntress. Man couldn't help but chuckle, like he had heard that question before, but was still amused by being asked about it with no hint of annoyance. Sorry, little one, this armor isn't for sale. It's only given to the Atletian commandos upon completion of their basic training.
Comma, lowercase s, she pouted cutely. Don't use adverbs.
Adverbs are a double-edged sword. They're good at accenting things, but you gotta know what you're accenting, because pouting is naturally a kind of a cute thing. Typically, adverbs are intentional, if I wants to say. Like, when you pout and you look cute, it's not intentional, typically. How do I describe this? Adverbs are just a very weird thing. They can be very good, they also be terrible.
Yeah, okay. Daron and Ruby walked to the other side of the room after her little pouting fit. However, comma, this man they walked up to gave, comma, why is he doing this? Gave Ruby, no comma, some very off vibes.
What is the rule for proper nouns when you're talking to someone and you put commas around it? Is that typically just when the people are speaking? I'm trying to remember. Because that might have been what he was trying to correct for. I think it is when people are speaking.
No, because when you have the commas there, it would say, this man walked up to gave Ruby some very off vibes, which isn't how you read that.
Yeah. Again, my rule of thumb when it comes to things, even though it's not, it's a good rule of thumb for like the first pass, and then after that you go through with the actual grammar, and maybe you keep things with a broken grammar at times, but feel it out. And when it comes to punctuation, comma is a short pause, period is a longer pause where you're completing a thought. And I think like period is like I think comma is a breath, period is a pause, semicolon is a intended stop. So it's like I will now explain to you the truth. Colon. I will now explain to you the truth. Colon. Here's the truth. Then you have semicolon, which is like sort of like a pause with a breath type deal. I don't know how to describe. Basically, it's a feel out type thing. You just kind of feel out what those punctuations do. I feel terrible explaining this because grammar has always been my vex when it comes to that kind of stuff. But basically, just comma, breath, period, pause. Semicolon is a pause and a breath, and a colon is a double pause of sorts, where it's like double pause for emphasis. That makes sense. Does that make sense?
Tasty grammar, Floof says.
It is.
He wore the same armor as the other man her brother called Boss. He was adjusting something on his rifle, an AP-17M plasma rifle, in its sniper configuration. Like, that's something Ruby would notice. I see what you mean.
Yeah. His armor, however, was what distracted her from the beautiful black painted weapon a little. It was white like Boss's, but there was red paint scattered all over it. Not as precise or angled, but more tribal-like. He took his blue visor off the weapon and looked at Ruby's petite but growing form, almost as if he was eyeing her very soul. All right, that's typically what we call red flag.
If you're going to describe her form.
Yeah, that reads very differently in the head, especially if this is 10 years before the fall of Beacon. This is
So what, she's 5?
She's 5. This is very... Yeah, that sound. Oh, that I'm just I'll just do where's the comment? Yeah, no. This don't do this.
Petite but
She's
growing
5.
is how I describe Ruby at age like 16.
Yeah, and I would typically the kind of character that's looking at her should either be of her age or not portrayed as a good person.
He's not eyeing into her very soul, I'll tell you that much. The soul is not what he's looking for.
Oh, that completely off-center. I'm going to just delete that. Because it completely off-centers everything. Yeah, I'll just...
God to your word choice.
I'll just make it red. Make it red.
Listen, especially to male writers, once you start describing women like physically, that is your like biggest hurdle.
Yeah, like there's very... It's hard to describe because I've been writing women for like the better part of a decade at this point. So I'm just kind of I just naturally know what to do about it because I don't usually focus on the sexual aspects of women from the get-go at the very least. I can if I need to for the story's sake, but...
Here's the rule. You can describe women, but once you mention her generous assets, it's the term they always use. Once you start doing that, you get the chair in Minecraft. There's 2 things in writing where you get the chair in Minecraft. Doing that and writing chatfics.
You've been on a tirade against chatfics recently.
That's because the Pokemon ones are like actually atrocious.
Oh my god, I know, and there's like 20 of them.
Per page.
Per page? Yeah, I don't know how many chatfics. There were some chatfics that were like written by the same person because they got bored with the last chatfic. Like, I don't understand this.
Just write a Twitter post, and it's like funny conversations between these characters.
I read one chatfic that I actually liked. It was My Hero Academia one that was actually really cute because it was Momo and Todoroki, and it wasn't just a chatfic. It was like across all social media. So like you got Twitter posts, you've got news articles, you've got Facebook posts, you've got message boards, you've got text between friends, and it's like it's basically giving
impressive.
It's this whole like snapshot of like what's going on between them, and it's like it's an entire story of how they end up meeting by accident, falling in love because of like just social media bringing them together type deal. It's very cute fic.
That's nice. Hold on. Don't ever describe a woman unless you're writing from the perspective of a character who's actively noticing attractive physical qualities, and even says you're on thin ice. Once my there was a 4chan post that was like, describe this woman, and obviously she has the generous assets. So it's like the joke is like you have to describe her, and it's a writing test. And my friend described her as a woman who looks like she's constantly plotting how to change my furniture without me noticing. And I thought, like, that is how you describe a character.
Although you can have like a complete pervert of a character, like you can have that, and that'd be actually kind of fun to write, where like a character that just like walks into a room, he's thinking completely logically and clear-headed, and then immediately a woman walks in, he's just like booba. It's like the rest of his thing is just like him tripping over his own thoughts, where like boobs and ass keeps getting put in places.
Okay, if you're gonna do it for comedy, do it for comedy, but don't like, if you're doing it in like romance, it's still weird.
What about sex scenes?
Okay, even then, just be careful. It, there is something so like instantly taboo about in terms of like writing quality. When you describe certain things, the writing just dies.
Yeah, like I mean, that's why I don't typically write sex scenes. I try to avoid them. I don't feel because a lot of my issue is like a lot of like sexual stuff is very repetitive because it's sort of just the flow,
I don't think we should
motion.
talk too much about that. I don't think we should talk too much about that.
Yeah,
I guess
yeah,
I guess it's hard to resist giving a physical description. Should I just avoid that? Give a physical description if it's relevant.
yeah. Like oh, she was she tiny. She 4'1".
Yeah, like if a character is like too small for what they are doing, that is very relevant. If a character is too large for what they are doing, that's very relevant.
Describing
If
a character as easily puntable.
She could be drop kicked over a fence, probably.
Wait, is Ruby expanding in size? I hope
Constantly expanding in size. DH over DT.
Anyway, let's continue off this tirade. However, he knows that Ruby wasn't paying attention to him anymore. His head tilted a little before turning around to see what she was looking at with wide eyes. Sorry, Sev. Sorry. This is where you have the commas. Sorry, comma, Sev. Or I guess no.
You don't need it after Sev.
You don't need it after Sev?
Oh, wait, no. Yes, after Sev, but not before.
Yeah. I can see where you got confused with the name thing. Like, that even still trips me up. Sorry, Sev, she doesn't tend to pay attention when hypnotized by something shiny. Comma, Durin said. Oh, so just like Scorch with explosives. Pretty much. Sev got up from his seat and grabbed the weapon Ruby was looking at. He placed it down on the display case. Well, little lady, this is a Valiant Barrett, M821A1 50 caliber anti-material.
4x4, shimmy with the squeeze, light axle.
All right, this is a character explaining things. Like, so
I know, but like I just wanted to do that. Yeah, it makes sense here because he's a gun salesman explaining a gun to somebody. That's exactly what you're going to do.
Yeah. High velocity armor piercing can take the armored head of an elder Night Stalker from as far as 3,000 yards, but the ammo ain't cheap. She looked to her brother, giving him the biggest smile she could give. Can we try it out? She asked. He gave a nod. We'll rent out this one, Sev. Hope that won't be a bother. Yeah, sure. Go to Fixer for the range cubicle. After taking the weapon from the display case it was on, the silver-eyed girl and her brother...
Who gives a full-size rifle to a 5-year-old? Cricket rifles exist for a reason.
Yeah. Maybe, okay, in fairness, I think she might have been 16 by the fall of Beacon, so she could be 6.
Wow, that makes a difference.
Whoa.
After taking the weapon from the display case it was on, the silver-eyed girl and her brother went to the range master, who promptly gave her the cubicle number as well as 10-minute safety brief to properly use the rifle Ruby wanted to try out. They set up shop, and Duran nestled the rifle in his shoulder. Ruby sat on his lap with tiny hands trying to wrap around the larger pistol grip so she could have an easier time to pull the trigger. This girl is going to lose her arm. Just saying that now. After putting on her ear and eye protection, oh my god, think of tiny Ruby wearing like those big earmuffs and glasses. That's so cute. To put on her eye and eye protection, she placed the adorable cheek on the buttstock of the rifle. The two spent nearly an hour and a couple hundred rounds together. Jesus Christ! All right, so a bit of a gun nut thing. 50 caliber ammunition ain't cheap. Like, we're talking that a couple hundred rounds is somewhere in the thousands of dollars. Because, like, I think it's like $5 a shot, maybe more.
I've never seen 50 cal offered at a gun range.
Price.
I've seen like 45. That's a lot more common.
So for 50 rounds of 50 BMG, it's that's actually much cheaper than I thought. So for 10 rounds, it's $38.
Okay, but still several hundred, so we're talking like
Yeah,
we're
that's
talking like 300.
yeah, that's at least $380 for just 100 rounds. Several hundred, that's getting up there to like let's be charitable and just say 200. That's like $740, $760, something like that.
Yeah, about there.
That ain't cheap. That ain't cheap.
Bro, just get her a cricket rifle. Good lord.
And for the record, I wouldn't bring this up if they hadn't specifically spelled out that the ammunition ain't cheap. So I'm just wondering, how rich is Ruby's brother here? Also, I forgot to mention, Ruby has a brother here. We didn't comment on that because... Okay, one rule for me in fanfiction, and you can do what you want in fanfiction, I'm not going to complain about this necessarily, but it's a pet peeve of mine. Adding members of family. Adding members of family that don't exist gets real cringy real fast. Because, like, you're going to the story typically to see characters that you're familiar with interacting in a new way. However, the established dynamics typically take into account their family. So Ruby and Yang are almost always going to be sisters because that's what you need for the story. It's just like I don't know how to describe it. It's a pet peeve. Don't add family members. Abused and neglected. Yeah, exactly. Abused and neglected male reader. Yeah, basically. Because the Boomer 45 meme is hilarious. Damn it, Floof. Floof beat everyone. Oh my god. Okay. After putting on her ear and eye protection, as they left and said goodbye to the former Legion commandos, she couldn't help, again, comma, it's lowercase.
All right, this is actually going. This is over. This is over time, over word limit.
Oh, is this over limit already? Yeah, this is definitely over word limit, but the ending is a joke when it comes down to size, so we'll be fine. As I left,
That's true.
As I said to the former Legion commander, she couldn't help but look back at the path they had walked, which led to the range. She saw a woman in a similar white cloak that Duran wore. She looked so much like herself, but with her hair done in an odd design. You see, that's where you needed a little more detail. Like, what is odd about the design? How's that? Give me an answer there. What is odd about that designed hair? Don't worry, my little flower. When we return, I'll help you choose your weapon. She couldn't help but tear up at the words and sight. Duran picked her up the minute he heard her sniffle. "What's wrong, Rubes?" he asked as he hoisted her up. She giggled but looked down and replied. Why did she giggle? She's tearing up. "I wish Mommy was here," he nodded. "I do too, little sis. She always was watching us from the sky." Her head perked at that. "Really?" "Uh-huh. She'll always be watching over us from the moon." She smiled again, ever sweet and innocent, returning. "Can I have that rifle as with a scythe melee form?" "Sure, Ruby," he said. "What is it, big bro? Happy birthday." She hugged him tightly. "Thanks, big bro." You know, I wish I had a big brother that would take me out to range and shoot. That'd be fun. Also, this completely ignores the fact that Ruby built her own rifle. So, just gonna say that you kind of missed the point of character there. This is kind of slipping back, man. You're kind of slipping. You gotta start clawing back to where you were. Basically, this is just Ruby being taken out to the range to shoot rifles. Yes, and I can confirm that I think the whole Kevlar vest thing was probably a little bit too much now that we've seen the whole story. Didn't really seem to come into much play. Also, it was really weird just adding that kind of thing. It seems like you're really intent on building this whole mythology of your own Ruby world. Maybe instead of trying to build your own Ruby world, you want to build your own world itself. Don't be afraid. People are scared to build their own worlds because they realize that once they build their own worlds, they will be responsible for all the critiques. But the problem is, even in the fanfiction format that you're giving us, you are still responsible for all the critiques that we're giving you. Like, you're actively changing things in Ruby to the point that it's almost unrecognizable. So why not just make your own setting and try that? And that might be our challenge for you. Make your own thing.
By the way, someone said, "Is this the first anime AK story that isn't from reader's POV?" That's a good question.
That's a good question.
Anyway, let's move on to Elvin's.
Yes, Elvin's. The moon is the Muffin Man. Is Muffin Man Dan's theory canon in this writing prompt? I don't know. I don't know what that theory is. Wait. All right. So chapter. There you go.
Question mark. I think he said it was like an excerpt, so that would make sense.
Okay.
The exposition. You want to take this, or do you want me to take this?
I'll take it. With each tick of the clock, with each tick, the clock slowed, seconds lasting moments at a time, each longer than the last. Kalain sat silent, arms crossed, eyeing Thayren with a look of a school teacher whose student handed an essay that he couldn't possibly have written. Thyron's eyes darted to all the corners of the room. Theyre? I guess it's Thayren, I guess. Thayre. His eyes filtered back to Kulain now. He had something to... His eyes flitted back to Kulain, and now he had something to focus on. I think it's supposed to be now that he had something to focus on. Your loyalty ain't in question. What you've done speaks for itself. It's just that I need to ask you something. Opening his drawer, Kulain retrieved a blue leather-bound journal. Thayre's journal. What the fuck are you? Thayre began holding back a chuckle. Fuck. He failed. After a while, he managed to recompose himself, laying out a long sigh. You ever read about old mythology, about how all the gods are a bunch of petty assholes? Kulain leaned forward, head tilted slightly. A bit. What my parents taught me, I can't say I recall. All right, first rule. Whenever someone new starts to talk, new paragraph. Do not have two people talking within the same paragraph. It is a very, very important rule of writing in English that you have a paragraph break when a different speaker starts. And it gets to the point where you can actually leave dialogue sitting on its own without any kind of descriptor attached to it, and you just know who's talking because of how the pattern of speech has gone. So, yes, so like basically, you would have an enter right here as Kulain leaned forward, head tilted slightly. You would just have a big old enter right there.
Leaned is correct in British English. Okay.
Oh, you're a limey. Got it.
He is.
Don't take that as an insult. I'm just joking. Is limey like a bad insult? Is that? I
don't know.
It's kind of like yank, isn't it? Well, I can tell you that first. I can tell you firsthand that they're assholes. That's how I got here. That's how I got here. This is where you have a semicolon. That's how I got here. Semicolon. One moment I was just getting ready to do a job, and then some god just whisked me away. Told me I was chosen to become his champion.
Ooh, is this a reverse isekai?
Maybe. All that means is that he sent me wherever the hell he wants so I can remove assets that could be useful to his enemies. And by he, I mean his minions, since I'm not even important enough to meet the man himself. Are you trying to mess with me right now? Because quite frankly, this all sounds like a load of bullshit.
I would start putting in more descriptors there. That is a lot of text with no descriptors. Break it. Next paragraph, are you trying to mess with me? I would put in like, he was taken aback or something. Like, he stepped back. Yeah,
like physical reactions to things. You don't need a lot of them. You just need like a little dabble here and there. Are you trying to... I just watched a television fight between a goddamn wizard and a one-man jazz quartet, and you have the gall to say that is normal, yet some perfectly normal interdimensional fuckery is weird. Interdimensional? Well, interuniversal would be more accurate. I'm an Endorian. I grew up in my parents' ship, and they were mercenaries. I think a period would probably be warranted there. I learned the family trade and used it to become a naval officer. A period or a semicolon would work. My dad died in battle, and I got the ship. I used some centuries-old captain as an official vessel for a few years, and then I retired and became a mercenary. And then God got me. Kulain clocked his head to the left and right. He was a dog faunus after all. And what use is alone? All right, stop. Hard stop. That is a lot of information for a character to digest. Like that is the... I would have so many questions that were not what use is a lone mercenary in an unfamiliar world. I would be like, wait, you're an alien? You're from a different universe?
Excuse me. Yeah, that's what I'd be like. Oh, hold on a second here.
Why just 1 minute? I'm Gilbert Gottfried now, and I'm going to read the rest of the submissions in this voice.
You'd lose a lot of viewers.
Theyre shrugged. No, okay, I'm kidding. I'm not actually going to do that. Theyre shrugged. Got paired up last time. Partner was able to compensate for my lacking strength. She'd have been a godsend here. Luckily, I can get stuff sent to me for being a loyal follower, and I've been saving up for something big. 230,000 tons of big, to be exact. That's where like a colon would come in handy. You know, something big, colon. 230,000 tons of big, to be exact. Leaning back, Kulain released a long sigh. The ticking came back, interrupted only by the vibration of There's leg on the rough wooden floor. You gonna tell the others? Kulain covered his face, barely hiding the grimace he held underneath. It's better you're alive. Kulain, are you sure about that? I can live with it. All right, so I'm lost on a lot here, I think.
It's just, I mean, it's called the exposition, and boy, does it live up to its name.
Yeah, this is very heavy exposition, and I think this might be a good time to kind of just launch into like how solid exposition should work. It shouldn't be in these big chunk dumps. It should not be.
Solid exposition you should be planting seeds, as they say. You're planting little bits of info.
Like, why would he... this is also like a pet peeve when it comes down to a lot of... Like, the Terminator, for example. I just watched Nostalgia Critic did actually a pretty good retrospective on the Terminator, the first two Terminator films. And it raises the good point of, why would you tell this full story to the to anyone and expect them to believe you, that you're from the future, that you came back to stop an apocalypse? No one is going to believe you if you tell them that. You should probably have a better cover story. In this circumstance, this guy should know that what he's telling this, Kulain, Theyre should know that what he's telling Kulain is insane. It sounds insane. And Kulain has some indication that there's truth behind it. Yes. But it doesn't mean he's going to buy everything. You should have a softer way of delivering it. Unless this guy is floundering, in which case he shouldn't be so confident about it. He should be just trying to explain things, and Kulain should be like, whoa, dude, slow down, we gotta parse this out. Like there's a lot of different dynamics here you gotta take into consideration. Think if someone walked up to you on the street this very moment and told you this entire exposition dump. How would you react? Even if you had an inkling it might be a little bit true, that's... oh, wow. Just... I would recommend not editing until we're done with the stream. But you got to take in that consideration, just like, how would you react to this? And then also put yourself in the other character's shoe. If you were sent into another dimension, what would you logically do in order to try and keep that secret? And if it were outed in some way, shape, or form, how would you try to explain it to someone if you presumed that they would not understand a damn thing you were saying if you told them the flat truth? Like, it's a very difficult line to master. Trust me. But once you master it, you can get some really interesting character dynamics. Like, for example, the Monster Hunter movie. I actually really like the Monster Hunter movie, except for the fact it didn't have an ending. Because, here's the thing, for the most of the film, the two main characters who are interacting can't speak each other's language, and they have to figure out how to communicate and express ideas and stuff non-verbally or like pseudo-verbally, and they have to learn to work together and figure things out, and it's just a very oddly well-written dynamic. So it's like that. Yeah, what if this guy believes him cause he just broke out of the psych ward? Yeah, what if Kool-Aid just broke out of the psych ward? Shut up. Reduce it to 10 words or less, or shut up. That's not quite the same rule. That's a Saitama quote. Okay. So we're gonna move on.
Let's move on to Ben.
Okay. So I gotta find a way to center this properly. Okay. Well, I hope we helped in some way. It wasn't very fine, I guess, but that's a very exposition is not you shouldn't just be vomiting exposition on people. It should be like characters giving as much information as they are willing to give.
Yeah. But thank you to Poncho and Elvin for being new submitters.
Yeah, we're always looking for new blood. We're always looking for fresh blood. I'm taking mental notes, Raymond. This advice will be very useful to my story. Good. I hope it will. I hope it was clear enough, because like we go into these and we don't plan out our words. We just kind of go by the seat of our pants and reacting to these stories. We're reading them the same time you guys are, along with us. So it's sort of like we're learning it at the same time you guys are. We're not learning, but we're compiling our thoughts. As you can see, it's very tiring. Mollie is very sleepy.
I always get sleepy around this time of day.
Okay. So this is.
I had a really big lunch. That's why I'm sleepy.
Do you want to read Ben's prompt?
Sure. I need to wake up. All right. So we have Ben, the guy, or as I call him, Paste Bin Man. Paste Ben. Carmen had hesitated as she tried to remember the year. Not wanting to have another episode, she quickly finished off the date with 2000X. That was the only thing she could consciously recall from her morning classes as she sat mechanically chewing the sandwich that she didn't dwell on, since she wouldn't remember the taste later. She had switched to sandwiches after realizing soup was an apt metaphor for her brain, and for some godforsaken reason, it was one of the few things she could not forget.
Brief pause. We got a donation from Thoughtful Pug asking, have you read Down the Steps yet? No, I haven't. I don't believe I've gotten to that yet. That's something you sent me, right? Wasn't it? Thoughtful Pug. Is that... Okay. Oh, well, you can continue reading. I'm going to check on this.
Okay. Hey, new girl. How's your first day? Speaking of things I can't forget. Wait, I can't forget? Speaking of things she can't forget or couldn't forget. Nemo, I told you that won't work. And if you're doing it ironically to cheer me up, you're failing miserably. Well, you never seem to remember my middle name, Johnny, in case you really did forget. So I can't be forgiven for thinking you'd eventually forget me altogether. Nemo, nobody could forget such. An oblivious clown with a ridiculous name. A colorful character like you. Carmen walked to the center of her living room and retrieved her notebook. You borrowed a movie from Nemo, but be sure to return it. The box has no title. It's covered in vertical green text. She matched the entry date to the calendar on the wall and stuck a note on the movie's case to remind her why it would be in the backpack tomorrow. She scanned the schedule next to her goldfish bowl and gingerly... Oh, I get it. Wait, hold on. I think I get it. And gingerly spread the flake sheet around the surface, making sure to never touch the bowl. She marked the feeding on the schedule and followed the posted signs in her room. Carmen was floating. Damn, the dream. A hand pressed against the glass, and the water amplified the reverberations as they swept through her. Trying to stabilize herself, she felt a psychic chill. She wasn't alone this time. Thrashing to turn and face the presence, the water seemingly impossible thick and unyielding. Her effort was rewarded when she cast the bedsheets off her body and fell to the floor. Her breathing and pulse calmed. She could hear the words filtering through the hall from the kitchen. Did you hear that? She might be listening. No, she might hear us, but I doubt she's listening. Have you seen the charts? Doesn't the suspicious activity concern you? Be forthright, or you will forget it. Solutions, not rhetoric. I'm suggesting we use the game. It sounds frivolous. The benefits are multifaceted, and we don't have to start from scratch, as long as it resonates. If your proposal demonstrates through planning, I'll consider it. Carmen swiped the dust off her fingers before testing the console's power button. The bright green meant everything was plugged in correctly, so she inserted the cartridge and reset the power. Ooh, Burning Scarlet Overdrive? I prefer the originals, but it's an okay spin-off. Nemo began to review the game as she examined the manual. I definitely think it suffers by focusing on the least interesting character. Woe is me, I have a dark and mysterious past. Why can't a mass murderer find happiness? I mean, geez, what a freaking drama queen. Not to mention she's a total Mary Sue in the Overdrive series. Scarlet should have stayed dead the third time. After 7, it was just ridiculous. Screw you, Nemo. Carmen didn't understand why she felt ready to cry. What? Oh, I guess you would identify with a bland, aloof amnesiac. Sorry, Carmen, but memory loss isn't character. That's
Okay,
so mean.
Ben, are you talking like right to us? Like, I feel like this is like specifically appealing to us right now.
Carmen sat silently ruminating in an empty classroom, waiting for the next period to start. Why was Nemo such an ass? Scarlet was a tragic character, continually trying to reunite with her lover, only to be foiled by fate. Her perseverance, despite her cyclical torment, was what made her compelling. How do I know that? Carmen felt so sure. She couldn't attach it to a specific memory. It was just there. She intrinsically... Intrinsically, thank you. I hate that word. Understood Scarlet's character and past. Now I need to find out her future. I like when you switch to I really do think you should be now she needs to find out her future. Oh, there is a meta element, so you're doing this intentionally.
Interesting.
Okay. Carmen got up off her couch and checked the fish's schedule. She already marked today off, so she retreated to her room and sat down to play. She needed to finish the game. Floating. Nothing in the darkness beyond the glass, but the tank was enough of a nightmare without the hands, or... No, the presence again. Instead of the water impeding her, now she was paralyzed. She thought she could at least turn her head to face it, but only managed to tilt enough to look at her own shoulder. She felt it approach, looming closer behind her. Hey, new girl, try to stay awake this time. It's troublesome to keep fishing you out.
I'm not entirely following what's happening. Like, there's this whole conversation going on about games, yes, but like, and then there's like the dream stuff.
Is it related to goldfish? Is the fish the joke?
Is it a joke at all, or is it just having meta stuff?
I don't know. I mean, goldfish have 3 second, like the whole like goldfish have 3-second memories thing. Maybe he's going for that. I don't know. I could be looking at the wrong thing. Decoy, explain.
Yeah, Decoy, explain. I'm interested. Paceman, please.
It's well written.
Yeah.
And I do like the shots and all the different tropes. Freaking drama queen,
I mean, I think that's
dark
more making
mysterious
fun
past.
of someone who would insult those tropes.
What?
I think it's more making fun of someone who, like, you know, you're making fun of like a critic when it like the show is like, or the game is like something she's attached to.
The movie she returns is The Matrix.
Oh.
Corinne has to remember.
I think that makes sense.
She quickly finished off the date with 20XX, so that was the only thing she could recall. The morning classes set mechanically chewing a pencil. Integral first day.
There's such a thing as a little too esoteric.
Yeah, I'm only getting bits of this. This feels like playing Kingdom Hearts 3 without playing the rest of Kingdom Hearts.
This feels like playing Kingdom Hearts. Except you, 358 days over 2. You're fine.
Oh, and the original.
Except for you, Kingdom Hearts manga. You're fine.
I changed it when that seemed too obvious. No, I think you could use a little more obvious, frankly.
Yeah, well, your prose is very good. The setup is good. It's just you're not delivering on like the punchline well enough.
Okay, well, our last one is...
We have a last one?
Yes, by Alpha Beta Omega Sin. Didn't I link it to you? Or I did not link it to you. Okay, let me link it to you.
My hair is a mess today.
There we go. I always read Onision as Onion Son. You should. He is an onion.
Kingdom Hearts manga do be based. It's facts.
I need to read
The
it.
35 Days Over 2 manga almost made me cry, where the game was like, oh, that kind of sucks. The manga's just like, no!
She had a puppy.
You got a puppy!
But yeah, this is Mystery by Alpha Beta Omega Sin, and it's only a page and a half long. Let's do this. It's too early for this crap, Berkeley, the detective groaned as he rubbed his...
Hold on, I'm doing something. There we go.
What did you do?
I changed the spacing.
Oh, thank you. It's too early for this crap, Berkeley, the detective groaned as he rubbed his eyes of sleep. Look, one more positive side, Gareth. The coroner
Hold on. I don't mean to keep interrupting you, but Decoy explained. She's in a simulation trying to break out, and Nemo is aggravating her, trying to wake her up.
Okay.
That makes more sense.
Interesting. I know if you grilled Onision, he wouldn't taste anywhere near as good as onions. Fair. Fair. Oh, bye, Christopher.
Bye, Christopher.
Look on the more positive side, Gareth, the coroner said. This crime is a hop, skip, and a jump away from your home. Berkeley wasn't wrong about that. The two of them stood in the small bedroom where Gareth's neighbor, Mrs. Harriet, lay dead on her own bed. The early morning sunlight entered through the window, and the floor was littered with shelves full of jewelry pulled out from the bedside table. Is that coffee I smell? Berkeley asked. He stood up and turned to see the sleepy investigator take a sip from a white porcelain mug. Oh. Yeah, you, wait, who's talking? Garrett, to the coroner or someone else? Yeah, use the victim's instant coffee machine, Gareth answered. The coroner shot a look of disappointment at him. Well, I needed it more than her. Berkeley sighed and shook his head as he walked out of the room, the detective following him down the stairs. I can't say anything definitive until the autopsy, but a witness heard the back door break around 5 in the morning, so that's my estimated time of death. Cause of death is probably cardiac arrest from shock, caused by what I'm guessing was... Reached the foot of the stairs. Berkeley pointed across the living room to the and the kitchen, to the broken glass door leading into the backyard. Seeing the culprit break into the kitchen through that door. Gareth took a long sip. Not bad. Berkeley's not bad. Not bad, Berkeley, not bad. Well, thank you, but I shouldn't be doing your job for you. However, Gareth exhaled, his sleepy expression unchanged. If the burglar broke into the kitchen from the back door, why is there no glass inside the kitchen? The coroner blinked at him in confusion. Okay, that is confusion. Gareth pointed to the kitchen floor where there was indeed no broken pieces of glass. They didn't break in the house from the back door. They didn't break into the house from the back door, no blood on the grass, so they didn't leave through it either, the detective continued. Was that window in her room open when you showed up? The officer who reported didn't say, Berkeley responded. I think they found the body in that room, too. Then they broke in through there, Gareth yawned, and broke the back door with a cup of coffee, with a coffee cup later to throw off the timeline. Berkeley perked up as he said that. Wait, how do you know it was a coffee cup? How do you know it was a coffee cup? Gareth gestured to his free hand to the broken glass again. Berkeley squinted his eyes closer. Some of the pieces were light blue colored, nearly indistinguishable from the glass. You need new glasses, Berkeley, Gareth snited. Berkeley had turned around, hand on chin, and walked back towards him. If the culprit broke through the glass through the window, then Miss Harriet must have been moved to the bedroom after she died. The detective nodded his head and pointed to the stain beside the coroner's feet. See that coffee stain? She probably stood right there, holding the cup, facing our guy who was... He tapped the stair that he was on with his foot. Right here. Berkeley scratched his head. Sure, I'll give you that. Though, why did he go downstairs? They already finished robbing her. They would have no need. Garrett slid down the railing and leapt off, the coffee not spilling out of his mug. Did they really rob her? The shelves aren't empty, full of dirt cheap. Actually, some jewelry was stolen, Berkeley corrected. Huh? Her left ring finger had a tan line around it, about a wedding ring. Guess I'm not the only one who needs eyes checked. The husband. Detective's eyes lit up as if the coffee was drinking finally kicked into gear. Mrs. Harriet is married? Berkeley asked. Was, Gareth answered. I gotta go. Wait, what? Before he could finish, Berkeley watched Gareth bolt out the front door and across the yard. You better bring that coffee mug back at least, the coroner hoped.
Okay, so that was like a straight mystery.
Yeah, that was like the most normal mystery of all these. And it's very solid. I have some issues with it, logically speaking, like when it comes down to stuff. At first, like some little good grammar here. You got to do the commas thing, but weirdly, I didn't pick up on that. I guess I'm getting a little bit tired. No, why is the guy drinking out of a mug that was thrown through a window? That seems like very dangerous, and it's damaging evidence. Like that seems like a very bad idea. That's adding his DNA to the... Unless he was the one that broke in which case that makes perfect sense, but that's not... Why wouldn't the coroner know that she was married? Because her name is Mrs. There's some logical things you need to work out about this story. I like the premise where you're just trying to figure out what happened in a crime scene, but you got some loose bolts there. Rip Tiny Weiss?
Yeah, not bad overall.
Yeah.
Pretty good stuff.
Yeah, Tiny Weiss is cut off the camera. Oh no.
Oh no. Sorry, I had a... She's on like a little bottle of supplements. There she goes.
The horror on Mollie's face as she just fell down into the abyss. If you want to torture yourself with an Onion Boy book, I wouldn't suggest it since he got demonetized completely. He can't abuse the copyright system against YouTube anymore. Alright. I hate this game of emotions we play. Oh yeah. But Raymond, it's quirky. Yeah, that's the thing, is like quirkiness has a line. If he was just drinking a coffee mug, you could be like, he could have taken the coffee mug. I still think that was like really unprofessional to drink coffee from the victim's coffee machine. You don't know what's going to end up being evidence. But like you could see it being kind of a quirk where like he's drinking coffee and like he's kind of like using it to get into the mindset of the victim, and he's like kind of repeating her steps in that way where he's using a fresh coffee mug and then he points the coffee mug out the window, that sort of thing. I love how concerned people are for Tiny Weiss. A bottle of supplements. No, Weiss, that's not the way.
It's 5-HTP. It's extremely safe.
But yeah, that was solid. He's a little reworking, but you know, your prose is clean, relatively clean. You just need more commas basically after the dialogue when you're going into like the detective groaned type deal. That's not what I meant to do. But yeah, that was mystery. That was our secrets stream. I think it went pretty well. We got some interesting submissions this time around. A lot of people trying to experiment.
All right, guys. 2 weeks from now, what are we doing?
I feel like there's some things that we touched on here. Should we give them something kind of more boring and mundane to practice? Something that's actually like really good, solid practice, not just experimental, seeing what people can throw at us. Should we be like proper grammar stuff?
You know what's tough? I was talking about this with a few friends. Writing casual conversation is really tough.
Okay, then we'll go with that. Casual conversation will be our theme for next week. And, you know, anime AK, that'll apply to you as well. For the rare time, casual conversation.
We're all so used to writing big, dramatic things. I want to see... I guess it's a little vague. Let's take anime AK... Tiny Weiss story. If one of you writes a Tiny Weiss story, I'll love it.
Tiny Weiss and her sister Minnie Martin. Did we establish a lore for that? Are they sisters? Or are they just?
They are friends. They're still getting used to each other. You know, like it's been a few months. No, Molly shouted as she watched Tiny Weiss fall down into the abyss, powerless to save her friends. So Weiss and Marnie, they have very opposite personalities, so they don't get along too well. But they are now adoptive siblings, so yeah.
It's a story of the movie Step Brothers, but better.
Yeah. Define casual conversations. We should make this more specific. I want to see two characters. Mm, I was so ready for anything but that. Right? It's like once you actually do it, you're like, man, this is hard. Okay. A casual conversation. Let's do two characters at a picnic because of Anime AK submission. Let's do picnic again.
Okay. All right, that sounds fine. Do we want to put any special restrictions on Anime AK?
You can't make the conversation about anything edgy.
Better yet, completely original characters. And I would also think casual conversation already precludes anything edgy. It's not supposed to be anything dramatic. It's not supposed to be anything like, my past is so dark. No. This is casual conversation. And in particular, Anime AK, I want something original from you. No fandoms.
What about just casual interaction in general? Sure. The picnic is a suggestion, but yeah. I want to see just people writing casual interactions. And that's going to be like a really interesting stream. I feel like we'll get fewer.
I, in particular, want to see people practicing spoken grammar, like when it comes down to, how characters speak to each other, just like the simple comma inside of the quotation marks, the lowercase, unless it's a proper noun, word afterwards. So, you have basically like this formatting. Work on that formatting. That's what I'm kind of looking for. Practical, casual conversation formatting.
If anybody writes about Tiny Weiss, though. Perfect.
But yes, thank you all so much for joining us. It has been a blast. A friendly reminder that for $1 or more to my Patreon, you get access to the Team Frostbite Discord server, The Tundra, where I, and Fatman Falling, and Dashi Lee, and again, once more, Molly, are regularly active. And sometimes British Ninja shows up to troll all of us because he does that. I don't know if we have anything else to add. Anything? Are you frozen? Oh, you're just being very still.
I'm being very still. I'm usually like rocking back and forth in my seat just to keep myself awake, but no, I'm being very still.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll catch you all on the flip side.